These are some set photos. It comes from the BBC.
That's not even a scoop.
BBC's a real news service.
Real. Unless they're gonna play Sentry kind of like a Molecule Man, where he can actually destroy big portions of something. How far along do you think they are in Vision Quest, where they're still testing things out?
I think they're debating story beats, and they're using art to inform that conversation. Ew, you look sick, sir.
Why would you say that to Kevin Feige?
You can't spoil it.
Our straight sources of Kevin Feige. I wish.
Sentry's childhood home in Avengers Doomsday? Rumors.
Ghost, Agatha, Billy, and Wanda in Vision Quest?
Rumors. Kevin Feige resigning from Marvel? Rumors.
That is a rumor. He's gonna go eventually, but not this soon.
When he's 90.
Yeah, dude, he's gonna be on that heart. He's gonna be like on the bed being like, no, don't put him in it.
He'll just be that little alien from Men in Black wearing a ball cap.
Oh,
that's
100.
Just all over him saying, it was so excited for Fantastic Four 12.
And just in case you guys are confused, that's the Orion's belt.
We are going to be answering these questions and more in this episode of The Rumor Rundown. The Rumor Rundown is a show we do here at New Rockstars, a podcast and a video show where we just break down the various unconfirmed rumors and scoops and just other bullshit that we hear about related to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and other studios here on social media. And we use our journalistic experience to investigate each of them to assess whether they are a true scoop or a real poop. I'm Erik Voss, here with Jessica Clemons. Good to be with you again, Jess.
I love these rumors. Keep them coming. That is what keeps me coming to Rumor Rundown.
Should we get to our first rumor that we talked about at the beginning of the show?
Oh.
All right, let's do it. Ew. Oh, ew. You look sick, sir.
Why would you say that to Kevin Feige?
You can't spoil it.
Our straight sources of Kevin Feige. I wish. Oh, no, it's not.
Well, there is a conspiracy theory that My Time to Shine Hello is Kevin Feige's
Could you
alt.
imagine? What if it's his wife? Could you imagine? No, she knows everything. So she could.
It's like there was that one alt account that was like the wife of the Philadelphia Sixers who was like
the Eagles?
harassing employees.
Oh, it was
the basketball team.
No, it was the basketball team. Okay, that's
yeah.
Damn.
Well, it may or may not be Kevin Feige, or maybe Nate Moore, or Victoria Alonso, or some of the other past execs who worked at Marvel Studios who are now our official source. But either way, they look unwell. You should take some time off, get well, and then if you could just redirect your head, hand me the first rumor. All right. I should say,
it's
look.
wet.
It's wet.
Ew, dude.
Okay. Well, they're just sweaty. Okay, so our first rumor is about Avengers Doomsday.
Love it.
These are some set photos. We're not going to show you here, but we will describe what is in them. That comes from the BBC.
Oh, so that's not even a scoop.
BBC's a real news service. But the context of what it is
true.
What makes it kind of suspicious. According to BBC News, Marvel Studios is building a second set for Avengers Doomsday at Windsor Great Park, and it is referred to as Annie Reynolds' house. This is also other things that we've heard, seen from the set from Great Windsor Park in the UK, that they're going to be filming in June for about 4 days, a set that includes a 1960s themed building titled Luke Cage House, with a spaceship attached to it. This part of it comes from Avengers updates via Slough, SLOUGH observer. Slough.
Is
observer.
that is the UK news reporter or the newspaper? And I'm like,
that's the area. Got it. Okay. So both of these are legitimate news services that exist in the UK, but it's what makes it kind of a rumor is like the labeling of what these things are. Because if you just look at these photos, they're just houses, and one of them looks like it has a spaceship next to it. I don't know what makes it particularly 60s themed, but some people are referring to this as the Luke Cage house. So Annie Reynolds would refer to Bob Reynolds' mother, Annie Reynolds, who we only saw the top of the head and maybe part of her arm in the Thunderbolts film when Bob, as a child, was being abused. And Annie was being abused as well. is this the House of Sentry? We never got to see the exterior of the house in Thunderbolts. We just saw the attic and the kitchen, and that's it.
Would that make it more that he already is piecing together different pieces of the world? Is that what they're kind of trying to lean to? Because in Doomsday, are we assuming that he has got Luke Cage's house and Sentry's childhood home just in the same area?
Yeah, like a neighborhood of houses of poor, unfortunate Marvel's heroes.
I mean, it feels very Kang-like if we show that Doom has gone to what it looks like what happens when Doom does touch a different universe or reality. I feel like that'd be too much what Kang kind of did because he was just going to planet, destroying it. But that could be what they're kind of going for here. I don't think there's too much lie in the idea. When you say like a 1960s themed house, I think that's when you call it just a house like a rustic, rustic them saying that. But it being titled Luke Cage house, I'm not surprised that like a Luke Cage house and Sentry's house is in this movie.
Yes, I think it aligns with other things we know about this movie, that it's going to be partially set in Battleworld.
Yeah.
There's going to be an X-Mansion in Westchester County campus that exists with maybe the collapsed body of a Sentinel. There's probably going to be other familiar places from the Marvel universe, maybe parts of Wakanda or another alternate Wakanda that's in there. But in this case, it's like, okay, I think Sentry's going to have an important role in Avengers Doomsday. Why would his childhood house need to be in Battleworld? I kind of feel like this could be a structure that Dr. Doom could have in order to maybe re-trigger Bob Reynolds in his void for him to come back out. Or maybe just a home where he feels comfortable staying in that attic, like someplace, a home base that Bob Reynolds could stay in if he wants Sentry to be like a long-term resident of Battleworld.
I think story-wise, this is just a plot device to make it for Sentry, because Sentry's whole entire powers is connected to his emotional, like how he reacts to things. So putting his house in there makes it like, oh, we're going to trigger something, because I feel like the same logic could be applied to like, oh, so Luke Cage is going to be an important person because his house is also there. And it's like, no, they're just putting a bunch of mishigash like into Battle World. But I don't know if Doom necessarily, unless they're trying to make him the Dr. Doom uses him to go and destroy all the other
Owen Reese.
Is it Owen Reese?
Molecule Man,
sorry. I don't know his first name. I always know him. Unless they're going to play Sentry kind of like a Molecule Man where he can actually destroy big portions of something. I don't know. I think they just kind of put it in there to f*** him up. Because watch the inside be the actual house of like Ant-Man. Yeah. The outside looks like Sentry's home, but the inside is like the condo that Ant-Man lived in.
I think here's just to do some, due diligence into how we got this information. Again, we're not going to show it to you, but how do we know things are called this? Well, apparently the grounds on which they shot, the Crown Estate, which owns Windsor Great Park, they have sources there who were given like maps and blueprints of these structures that would be constructed, and on these blueprints had specific labels, and that's where we're getting things like the Luke Cage house and the Annie Reynolds house. And they specifically had to get these construction plans approved by local leaders, counselors on whatever the city council is. So like the blueprints had to be labeled something, and then those, I guess, labels became public record for things like BBC News and the Sloth Observer to send out to the world. And that's how we have it now.
It's more interesting that they just didn't lie and call it something else, unless this is them lying and calling it something else. It feels like if you lie about the house on documents that you just need to get approved, and this is just coming from me that have shot on location plenty of times in my young 20s, we didn't have to say what it was. You can
use a code word.
Yeah, you could use a code word, and we also had a site rep that was like, yeah, this is our person that does, in case of a fire, in case of this or that, or the building collapses, we have them on set, and we even gave them not even our actual name of what was shooting on location. So that's why I'm like, it's kind of crazy they gave us exactly the name of the buildings.
Well, it's also hard because, like, in these instances, do you look at the possibility that there was just some construction coordinator who just labeled something, and it was a local contractor who had just like a label on something and then handed it off and didn't think that would end up in like the hands of the entertainment press.
That's too many people.
I think it could have been one fuck up. And then that's how things like Luke Cage house, Annie Reynolds house gets out there. I still think, though, that would never be written down anywhere.
That's why
I think they would
yeah.
call it, like, if for the construction crew, there would be some code word for
That's
it.
why I think they want us to kind of know. Or not want us to know, but
I don't think they want us to know. I think somewhere else in the chain, someone called it that.
I don't think someone messed it up, though, because that's so distinct. If there's more than one house, that means there's another house that could be called Ms. Marvel's home. Or or not Ms. Marvel, Captain Marvel's house that she took over that doesn't belong to her. They could do Star-Lord's house. And that's why I'm like, those are too specific. Like, Luke Cage's house and Annie Reynolds' house is so specific. That's why I'm like, I don't think someone just made that up. Wouldn't you want to call it something that everyone knows? I don't know.
To me, I see this as it is so inconsequential. Like, I think they're just going to have a house for everybody.
Yeah.
And they're just like, if this is like tier E or tier F of a house.
These are the tier Fs?
Like, is Luke Cage even going to be in Doomsday?
But the Annie Reynolds house isn't a tier F?
Well, because Sentry was in the most recent Marvel movie, and I think Sentry is going to be an important character in Doomsday. I don't know if Luke Cage is.
No, but if we're grouping them together, I'm like, they gave us A tier and an F tier in the same sentence? That's crazy.
No, that's a good point.
That's great. But also, even if Luke Cage was in the movie, I don't think Luke Cage is as big as Sentry is. Like, what damage they can do in the MCU. And also, again, like, because Sentry is connected to his house. Everything bad happened there. So it's like, this house is very important. Luke Cage's house is just Luke Cage's house. Like,
I just also don't remember, like, Luke Cage lives in Harlem. Does he have a house?
Well, I think they're making it like in a different universe. He lives like in a house on a farm. That's what I took it as. That's what I took it as. He didn't live in like, is there like a farm area of New York?
Westchester, if you go north, if you go outside the city, but like in the city, he is like Harlem's hero.
He's literally Harlem. And it's like, you could put him in Chicago. I don't think there's still farms there.
There's some, like on the outskirts of the city. Like if you go out to the burbs, you'll see some farms.
Farms? And maybe to be fair, I've only been to Chicago like once. But yeah, this Luke Cage is in Montana or something.
You go to the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago, and there are like agricultural techniques and tourism, but I wouldn't call that a true farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know how to rate this because, like,
well, it's still
there are these are real blueprints, these are real photos, like satellite view of the area. I trust that. The whole thing isn't a poop.
No.
But I think there's like certain pieces of information of this that I just still find suspicious.
I understand feeling suspicious about the titling and the names, or it just falling through the cracks of a million people. I can fall for those things. It's just so specific and also not specific. Could it be? No, because there's photos. I was like, could one be right and one be wrong?
No, I think these are all coming from the same kind of thing.
To be fair, the scoop for when it comes to the locations in Doomsday is really going to come to us when we build out the board of what's going to be in Doomsday, or like what they're making. Because once we make that board, then we say, this was absolutely poop, because we'll be seeing it. I don't think the X-Mansion with the Sentinels is poop, but I do think like there's probably going to be like, I'm sure someone did say a location that I was like, I don't think this is it. The Madripoor, right?
The Madripoor. Yeah. So there's a guy who recorded himself breaking onto the set, and it wasn't even for Doomsday. I think it was for some other production that was shooting there, and he's like, it's a bodega, and it's going to reference Madripoor and Shang-Chi.
And they said a bodega, and then it might not even be Madripoor.
The craft service that he went to was not for Doomsday. Like, I think it was later confirmed. It was just some other production that was there.
What is going on?
I know. That's why it's hard to trust this.
We need that board of locations.
We know
right
Doomsday
now.
is shooting there, but there's a lot of other stuff that's shooting too.
That's so crazy, dude. That's remember when that turned us all on our heads? That video.
We lost our minds.
And then that man was on the run for a minute.
We're still trying to find him.
It's hard. Yeah, I will say, to be fair, for us ranking locations, very hard until we have the board. I think it's okay if we don't really have to, but I will say, we'll wait till the end.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll
wait
till
before
we
formally call it Scoop or Poop.
But this is fun. Crazy.
This is a fun one.
Crazy.
All right, let's move on to our next one. Okay, Kevin, just cover your nose. Jeez.
Oh my God.
Okay, at least this one's not wet.
I don't like that the first one. Maybe it was the locations he was giving us a secret. Wetlands. Wetlands. Luke Cage.
All right, this next one concerns Vision Quest. We're hearing so much about Vision Quest from Daniel RPK. These both come from Daniel RPK. According to Daniel, Vision Quest will reportedly feature White Vision going to Madripoor in search of his memories and humanity. He then meets Ultron, also in human form. So they're saying a live-action James Spader, not voicing a robot doing mocap, but we're going to see Blacklist James Spader. And then also, Daniel RPK said, Vision Quest is basically testing some alternate endings one that includes Ghost Agatha and Billy, one that includes a tease that Wanda is coming back.
Insane. And you said highlight test.
Yeah, that they're testing out, and I don't know what that means. Like,
I could just yell out loud and be like, "We're working on it."
I think what that means is Daniel knows someone who works in concept art, and they have seen some concept art images that look like this, some that look like that, and they're just looking at that and being
I didn't know if it was like a wall in a writer's room and there's one note card that says like, "Whoa, Ghost Wanda and Agatha and Billy are hanging out."
Because I don't think they have shot that scene yet. No. If they're just testing it, it means like have someone drafted out a version of it, and they're looking at concept art and being like, 100%. Let's talk through this.
How far along do you think they are in Vision Quest, where they're still testing things out? Because there's a lot of stuff coming out, but we haven't gotten the trailer.
I think they're debating story beats
right now.
And by that, it's like Terry Matalas has probably scripts that he's written, and they're still talking through the ending, and they're using art to inform that conversation.
Daniel's been on Vision Quest. He's been on Vision Quest too.
Yeah, and I think for casting information, he has some insight into casting grids. I believe him there. I think he knows someone who works in Marvel Studios development in terms of like, hey, we're in talks with this person. But I think some of the things he says are like, make it seem like it's further along than it really is.
And I think they give him, there's some that he gets and there's some that he doesn't. Like, I think whoever's working close on Vision Quest is actually helping him. But that person doesn't work closely with the other shows.
Yeah.
Right now, for now.
What do you think of this, like, I think that there might be something to this Ultron in human form thing, because why would you need James Spader back for this? James Spader is pretty expensive to bring back for a Marvel show. We've heard Ultron being voiced by Ross Marquand and other things. There's no reason to think that you couldn't just have him voice it if it's only voice. I think if you're bringing James Spader back, he needs to be live action. So I think there's going to be, with all these other rumors we've heard of like a live action Edith, a live action Jarvis, I think there's going to be something that happens in this show where these AIs have a human body. And I don't know how they print that human body.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're plugging their AI consciousness into like a cadaver or something like that. Who knows? Or if it's something they're able to print tissue using Helen Cho's machine, where she could print tissue.
That's true.
They're able to 3D print a whole body.
I mean, Vision did that in like Meet the Visions, his family comic book series. I wouldn't be surprised if they just like plug him in and just been like, yeah, I'm just gonna turn him into this human. But I'm still on the train that I do think this is him like finding pieces of himself going into his own brain, and in that world inside of his own brain, he like somehow sees the other versions of his brothers and sisters as humans, and we're seeing them as Stevie from Schitt's Creek and these people. I don't think Ultron's out in the world yet. I think he's still internal, but I do think we're going to see him as James Spader. And the only reason I also say this is because I don't think he's going to physically go to Madripoor. I think because Ultron was able to literally scan the entire internet for everything that was wrong. That's why he needs to go to jail.
Right.
That's why he needs to go to prison.
He's seen.
Because we know what he's seen.
Yeah.
I think to make things calm and neutral, or just like to try to cool the vibe, if Ultron is going testy, he's gonna be like, why don't we sit in a bar? And then that virtual bar becomes Madripoor or something. I don't think they're gonna actually put them in Madripoor and be like, yeah, here's actual James Spader Ultron. He found a human body.
See, I think Madripoor is important because maybe Madripoor has some real shady technology where you can print human bodies. Like nowhere else on the planet. Like they got hold of like Helen Cho's whatever that technology was, and now they're like, hey, we can print bodies for people to do whatever gross stuff they want to do with human bodies.
Stop it.
Or for like I talked with you about the Mountainhead HBO thing. Like there is a whole thing within like the tech elite of like they're all terrified that they're gonna die someday. They have not come around to the idea that human beings are not immortal. But they are trying to create a form of immortality. And even Jesse Armstrong touched on this in the final season of Succession of like, what did they call it? Living plus? Like this idea that like your consciousness can be uploaded to a grid and that you can live on in that form, or like your body can be matrixed down and like you're just basically on a treadmill, like puppeted on a treadmill, basically clinging to life for as long as your organs need to be like kept alive. But then your consciousness can have like what feels like a healthy body in the grid. I'm telling you, this is terrifying. I hate this idea, but they're thinking about it and how to do it, and maybe that's what Vision Quest. I'm just trying to think. If I'm Terry Matalas, what do I want to do in a Marvel show? And that's something that like I can imagine him being like, people in Madripoor have come up with a way to create immortality, and they're using Ultron's AI to do it.
I think that's great for the person that did Star Trek Picard. I think that's fun for him. But I also am thinking, if Marvel's working close to this, how is that going to help the future of Marvel? Not in like a way that's gonna. It doesn't have to help the future of Marvel. I just know if the company's going to stay close to their IP, which they always have been, they're probably going to be like, well, now that this is true, what's going to happen in the future if a bunch of AIs want to become humans? Is that going to disrupt the mutant saga? Is that going to disrupt the supernatural saga? It seems like we would be calling a lot of attention to this because there's going to be a lot of AIs that are like, yeah, I want to be in a human body.
I think it makes it more interesting. Like if you're talking about like if Marvel is trying to introduce topics that will be part of our terrifying Brave New World over the next decade. Yes, sectarian divisions, otherism, things that could be explored in the mutant saga. That's one element to it. Our relationship to AI is another part of it. And I think like it's creepy, but like they already have done the work in some ways. Age of Ultron started to touch on these, like Vision's existence. WandaVision touched on like, well, what is Vision's soul? Is it something that can be replicatable by Wanda's magic? Or is he dead? Is he dead? Or is her memory of him, is her grief of him enough to keep him alive? Like, so those themes are touched on there, and that could be how this is like connected to WandaVision. And then we also saw it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with the life model decoy. Like LMDs are a very interesting, creepy, weird thing that like we haven't touched on really in the MCU and other things outside of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. by having Coulson come back to life as an LMD, that's something that I want the MCU to do more of.
And I don't think they're going to, because that was literally what she should have been in Thunderbolts, or well, at least what Valentina was in the comics. Valentina. So I think those were the times to actually touch on that versus now. But I also think I think those parts of WandaVision were the best. But what wasn't for me is learning deep down analytical science to understanding the AI world. And I don't think Marvel's gonna, and this is also just me and maybe 5% of Marvel, I don't think with the Mutant Saga, they're actually gonna, I'm so afraid they actually aren't gonna try touching this world. Because there's a lot of problems in today's universe, in our world, especially in America right now, everywhere. And I think they're too afraid to actually talk about it. And even though that is the heart of the X-Men, they are like, that was the heart of the X-Men a while ago. It's going to be really hard for us to try to make this a thing. It really depends on those writers. And look, I have my beef with Bo, but it was like Bo still was trying to further that LGBT like voice in X-Men. And I'm like, oh, now it's gone. How are we going to how are we going to do that? I love but you're right in the regards of the man that's doing it, who did Star Trek.
Right.
He's going to want to do as much sci-fi shit as possible.
Terry is who gives me hope for this show.
He's good at it. He's great at it.
Like, this could be the coolest sci-fi show Marvel has ever done.
No, what makes me nervous is forcing this still into the trilogy of Wanda and Agatha.
That I still don't understand. But Wanda, I kind of get, if you consider WandaVision a show about the technology of television.
That makes sense.
And the relationship between grief and human emotions and how they can be programmed into code.
I think
that kind of is what WandaVision was.
It's jumping from WandaVision to Vision Quest.
But it doesn't connect to Agatha.
It doesn't connect to Agatha.
Nothing to do with it.
But I don't care. He said it, and so I'm always like, oh, it also includes Agatha, right? And I'm like trying to find that tangential link. But it's like,
you don't see a plug anywhere. At some point, Billy's on his computer when he's researching it.
He was using a lot of analog shit.
That's as technological as Agatha ever gets.
He was using a lot of analog shit.
It's just scrolling through the dark web.
She couldn't even make a car. She had to use the
That's right. I forget that she had like a hula hoop and stuff. Her feet were on shoeboxes.
It was like a Fruit Loops little kids box. No, I like your idea. I like your idea more. And to be fair, that guy is going to turn. I hope they give him that freedom to just turn into a major sci-fi.
Yeah.
But I don't think Daniel RPK is wrong.
I mean, I generally trust him. All right, we'll revisit the accuracy of these claims at the end. But then one final scoop. This one is like purring?
Ew.
It's like growling.
Put it back. Put it back.
It's growling at me.
Put it back.
Ouch. All right.
It must be the hottest scoop we got.
This is a weird
Save the
one.
best for last.
Okay.
It's tiny.
Oh no.
It looks like a little piece of bait.
Okay, so this is from our friend MCU Source.
Don't read it.
And I have to read the exact phrasing of this tweet.
I love them.
All caps. Breaking! Kevin Feige is planning to leave Marvel Studios after the release of #Avengers: Secret Wars! !
Girl.
Get the out.
You know what I'm starting to recognize too? You're the only person hashtagging. So you're literally doing this just to get people to come to it. Girl,
So let's talk about Kevin Feige. A lot of people, not a lot, but some have said like Kevin Feige should have resigned after Avengers Endgame and he should have just packed it in. Or that like it's his fault. No, well, the buck has to stop with someone. Yes. I think if you consider the MCU to be in a low point right now, it's really because he overextended himself and he assigned too many of his second and third in command to oversee very important initiatives that they were overwhelmed with or didn't have the same kind of like management ability that he did over these creative storylines. I think he is very good at what he does, and he's already doing it of reining things in and doing less, and we'll see if that pays off. But I think Kevin Feige started with the X-Men in his studio career.
He did Fantastic Four.
He was a producer on those. Now that we finally have X-Men coming back in the MCU, he's not going to step back.
And that's why it reeks of bullshit. Yeah. Is because I'm like, you think he's going to step down before we get into X-Men? Nah, that's
This is
crazy.
what he's been waiting for.
That's what you've been waiting for. That's what you trudged through the trenches for. You're getting to that hill. That's that hill. Yeah. To stop before that'd just be insanity. I mean, he's what does it say? It's essentially, it says planning to leave. Yeah, no, he's not leaving. Because I was like, I could see him going down or something, a step, being like, hey, I'm pulling out a little bit, but I'm still here. Yeah. He ain't leaving Marvel Studios.
He's also a pretty young man. He's in his 50s. You know, like the average age of studio heads in this industry?
They have to be mid-70s. Average. I'm thinking also like music execs too, because they live forever.
Kevin Feige, I believe, is younger than James Gunn.
There's no
James Gunn graduated
there's no way.
Graduated college in the 80s, and he got his master's of business in 1996 from Columbia in New York. Kevin Feige did film school in the mid 90s as well. They're like roughly the same age, but Kevin Feige was like in his early 20s throughout the 90s, and James Gunn was already starting to write major screenplays and sell them by the end of the 90s.
I trust you by the sound logic. It's by their looks.
Well, James Gunn dyes his hair white.
He dyes his hair white, so
he's probably
that's why I think it ages
mixed.
him. He forces himself to be aged to like 60. He's 58?
James Gunn is 58, yeah.
That's not old. I'm just surprised.
Kevin Feige is 52 years old. He's 6 years younger than James Gunn. So Kevin Feige has been running Marvel Studios since 2008. James Gunn has been directing a bunch of different movies and TV stuff throughout all that time, and only now is he taking over DC Studios. So I'm just saying, like, and even James Gunn is younger than most studio heads. Like, Pete Docter and Jim Morris are running Pixar. Kathleen Kennedy is much older, but she was like a super producer throughout the 80s. And then if you look at, now we're talking about studio heads versus like chairman of the company.
Like
so Bob Iger is much older than these guys are, but he's also, I mean, you could call him a studio head, but he's like the boss of the studio heads.
I'm still surprised. First off, I'm like 52 is very young for where Kevin Feige is at right now. That's insanity. That makes me feel like shit. But then also
you have Ron Howard and Brian Grazer. Those guys are like in their 70s, pushing their 80s. Steven Spielberg, head of DreamWorks, is in his 80s, and Spielberg is even like
Ron Howard. You said is in his 80s?
Well, Ron Howard's super old. Yeah, I mean he's in his 70s.
I remember he was like a child.
Let's see, Ron Howard age. Little Opie Cunningham.
Yeah. Is he in his 70s?
Ron Howard's 71 years old.
He's 71.
Yeah. Let's look at.
Am I just behind on everyone's
Katzenberg?
Fucking age? Yeah, Katzenberg. Yeah. Katzenberg is young.
Katzenberg's 74 years old.
I'm so backwards on everyone's age. Holy crap.
Spielberg age is 78.
That makes sense.
So generally these men, and most of them are men, are in their 70s. So like James Gunn and Kevin Feige are young men. Yeah. They have another 20 years at minimum left running these studios.
Hey, if you want to be Kevin Feige, just prepare to lose all your hair immediately. It's going to stress you out.
He already is kind of balding.
No,
that's why he wears
the hat. That's why the hat's there.
Yeah.
Look here. LeBron wear a hat if he could, but he can't because he's playing basketball. But I'm like, that job will make you lose your hair.
And if you say he's leaving Marvel Studios to do what?
To sit on a yacht for the next 40 years? Because he has literally a long time to live?
He's a young man, and some people are like, oh, he'll run Star Wars. No, Kevin Feige should not run Star Wars. There's other candidates who could run Star Wars. Kevin Feige is the Marvel guy. He's good at this. And you could say what you want about the state of Marvel right now. And yeah, he probably is responsible for some of it. But imagine the lessons he's learning right now. And the next 20 years, he's going to apply those lessons too.
And again, I'm sorry to do it, but like, remember where he was and when you did if you don't like Marvel now, remember when you did like Marvel. It's not like he was fully gone. Yeah. So it's like, he's not leaving before that, and that's all I need to know. He's not leaving before X-Men. That's a crazy thing. That would be crazy of him to do.
I think I will be on my deathbed, and that man will still be running Marvel Studios.
100%.
Because once you start getting major Hollywood money, they start swapping out your organs and re-uploading your AI and your brain, and they live longer.
I think he's kind of. He's not gonna be Bob Iger, but I do think he's kind of waiting. He's like, I'll be 80 and I'll be up there in that chair.
Yeah. I think he will finish when people are done watching Marvel movies.
He dies when it dies.
Yeah.
Damn, dude. Yeah, that's one of those jobs where when I was over at no shade, when I was over at Lucasfilm, Lucas Ranch, they were like, yeah, we love to hire new people. We just don't have any jobs because they stay forever.
They never leave.
He was like, if you come here, just be prepared to stay in that position for about like 12 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, because they never.
That's how it is at Pixar too.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Once you get there.
And also, those companies like give you pretty good things.
Well, Marvel Studios though, I mean, other than Kevin Feige, I think we should say there's actually been a lot of turbulence at Marvel Studios.
Yeah, they move a lot.
Because they don't pay that well.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah.
They don't look, Marvel Studios, you can go backwards on this.
Disney generally does. I'm just saying, like, historically, Ike Perlmutter ran the company, he ran it so that, like, people had to go next door and ask for a pencil.
What are we doing?
Read Joanna's book. It's
great.
What
are we doing? I said, what are we doing?
They go into all this. Before we get to our final assessments of whether these are scoops or poops, we want to do a little announcement here. So whether you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us on podcast, New Rockstars is going to start doing an audio-only podcast subscription thing that we're calling In Our Underground. So this is just like a special thing we're doing because there are certain conversations we have here at our New Rockstars studios that we're like, it'd be fun to talk about this more and to like open this up to our followers, but we realized this would not work on YouTube. It's just too indulgent, it's too personal, it's too much of a personal soapbox or a gripe, or it's just too controversial. And we're just like, but we're not afraid to talk about this in front of an audience, but it should just be an audience who like knows what they're signing up for. So that's why we created the New Rockstars Underground, where it's just like kind of like our after hours bonus conversations where we go on these run-on tangents about things like wrestling, about being annoyed of how often we're called a shill, about weird experiences we had at like certain parties in the LA area where certain people were there. And
excuse me?
But we are making our first episode available for free just so you can get a taste of what it is, but it's an audio only thing. We're not even shooting video for it because it's like whatever. We don't have like the resources to even shoot video for these types of things. But it is a paid subscription thing. So for $5 a month, you can have access to all of those, plus ad-free versions of Sneak Peek and Rumor Rundown audio. And that's, if you just go click the link in the description, you can have access to it there. But the show that we're doing right now to have those conversations is called The Danger Room. And you will never see The Danger Room. You can only ever hear and eavesdrop on The Danger Room. But we're just trying it out for now. And then over time, we want to try to bring in other new show formats that are going to be audio exclusive to the New Rockstars Underground subscription. But we want your input on what that will be. So if you are able to support us this way, great. If you can't, don't worry, you're not going to be missing anything. It's just going to be a lot of like tangential stuff that is not going to be replacing any of the stuff that we make for New Rockstars. None of that's changing. In fact, we're going to be doing more on the New Rockstars channel, and I think you're going to love it. But this is just something we're trying out, and maybe we don't keep doing it, but if you're able to support it, great. We really appreciate it. And that's what's coming up on the podcast side of our business. All right, let's get into our final ratings. Are they scoops or are they poops? Okay, so let's rate the 3 scoops. The first one about the Doomsday set, the second one about Vision Quest, the third one about Kevin Feige's retirement. This first one from BBC and from the Sloth Observer, Give it like 50% scoop, 50%
Well,
poop.
okay, so where's your poop going towards?
The poop is the labeling of these houses and whether it's important. I guess I'm leaning,
which is a poop. I understand that. I agree with that. But I guess the scoop itself is a scoop.
Yeah, these are
and
actual,
it's a really good scoop.
Yeah, these are real. I trust these news agencies, and I think these are real photos, real blueprints, real construction plans. Yeah, I don't know if they are what they say they are and whether it's that important to.
Yeah, but there is still a house and there are still photos.
And I think Sentry will be in Doomsday and will have an interesting role in Doomsday.
Isn't he on the chairs?
Yeah, I mean, he is. And I just think this just means that he's going to have his own setting that I think is interesting.
So scoops.
Scoop, Vision Quest. So I think this is a two-parter. The first part of it, going to Madripoor in search of his memories and humanity, meeting Ultron in human form. I think that's a scoop. I think that is going to happen. Just because of why pay James Spader that much. The second half of it, alternate endings that include Ghost Agatha and Billy and setting up a return for Wanda, I think might be a poop. Just because they're probably getting that from just someone in a room seeing some concept art. And to me, that's not enough to be a scoop.
Yeah. I don't think it's enough to be a scoop, but I think it's a scoop irregardless, because it is you witnessing something on a concept art. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying it is. If you get an eye at concept art, you are scooping something. I think it's annoying that you guys don't say concept art in the title, but I'm sometimes concept art, that's the thing is I think we have become very jaded for concept art because it never comes true.
They don't say it, but they just
they don't say it,
we have to come in and say, well, how would you be able to make that conclusion? What would it be based on? Testing out different endings. It's not like they've already shot this and they're testing it in front of test audiences. They're not there yet.
100%.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good scoop. I don't think it's a good scoop. I'm just saying, because some scoops can just be literal just 1% good scoops. But I do think the first one's going to happen. I think we just have different opinions on how it's going to happen, but I do think it's going to happen.
Having a live action James Spader in it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Also, okay, not to be this person. What is James Spader doing right now, And it would cost a lot, but I would see them reaching out just to gauge if he could play more than just his voice. And he was like, yeah, why not? For that rate, I
James
could see
Spader hanging out on his yacht, maybe getting some residuals from Boston Legal Blacklist and The Office. Let's see. The last movie he did was Avengers: Age of Ultron. Isn't that interesting?
That's 10
He has not been in a movie.
No, that's out
then.
of your mind, dude.
He's done a lot of TV.
He's not even in it.
And you know what? Since The Blacklist, he has not been in any TV either.
I don't think it hurts him. And I also do think his publicist is probably this is you did. They love you in Age of Ultron. So just bringing your character back will just make people like you more.
Where has he been for 2 years? Tony, did he kill someone?
No, that was what's his name?
No, I'm just saying. Normally, you see them they did a play somewhere, or they did a special guest star on SVU.
He pushed Natalie Wood off a ship.
That was Christopher Walken.
Yeah, that's Christopher Walken.
No, that was Rock Hudson.
Christopher Walken knows about it. Christopher Walken knows about it.
Before he dies, we have to get the truth out.
And I hope he does, but he won't. He won't tell the truth.
It wasn't Rock Hudson.
I forget the husband's name.
But the belief is that she knew he was gay, and then she was.
Yeah, and then he got pushed off, and then
she pushed,
or he pushed her off, and then Christopher Walken said, I didn't see.
I was there, and
I took a nap. I
should have done more. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So our final rating, MCU Source. Kevin Feige resigning. Get the out of here.
I will say, keep it going though, because you bring so much joy to my anger.
We don't have to include your scoops in here, but they're so fun to make fun of you.
But
we're gonna drag you, MCU Source.
I like it, and also, but oh my god, and that's the thing. I'm going to start putting a time limit, a year limit, because if he does leave in 8, 10, 20 years, I'd better not see that tweet and be like, I called it. No. You get 6 months to a year. I'll give you that.
Are you willing to extend that rule to everyone who makes predictions on Twitter?
We should. Wait, what did you do? What did you do?
I'm just saying, there's a lot of people who say, I said this random thing 4 years ago.
Well, you know what it is? It's not even humility. If I guess something right as a tweet, and then the show comes out and all those things, I never bring it back up. I never return back to it. I never have. I've never done that because I'm like, it was so long ago. But Erik,
I don't do it either. But we both know people who do.
I want to know who. I don't get on Twitter anymore. Okay, well, we'll talk about this offline.
We'll talk about it offline. Hey, this has been fun going through these rumors with you, Jess. If you guys see any rumors, hit us up. Let us know what rumors you want us to like dig into to assess whether it's a scoop or a poop. And we'll talk about it next week on the Rumor Rundown. Follow Jessica at Lulu_Clemons. Follow me at EA Voss and subscribe to all the channels in the New Rockstars Network. All right, thank you so much for joining us this week on the Rumor Rundown. Thanks, Jessica.
Yes, dude. Yes, anytime.
This is a fun one. All right, we'll see you all next week. Bye, everybody.